She is a fraud. She's a fake. She's a phony. She's a wannabe Gypsy Rose, and she creeps me the fuck out. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Danielle. Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. All right, so I have a little confession to make. Yes, I have to own up to something. Something I said in my last video I was completely wrong about, and it's time that I own up to my mistake and misinformation. I had so much fun poking fun at Gypsy Rose and her influencer ambitions, and I thought she'd flop. I genuinely thought she'd be as influential as a soggy piece of toast. But oh, how wrong I was. As it turns out, she's been influencing so well, in fact, that there are now people actually copying her. Who would have known? Yep, you heard me right. People are copying her. One of her fans, or should I say a new copycat, is Adaptive Kate. Now, Adaptive Kate, or just Kate, claims to be a victim of Munchausen by Proxy, which, as we know, is a seriously messed up form of medical abuse. Let's take a listen to her story.
A lot of people don't believe that a doctor amputated a healthy leg. Fortunately, it is very true. I did have a healthy leg amputated due to my mom having Munchausen. I really want to focus on awareness about Munchausen by Proxy. A lot of people don't know what it is, and when I explain how I lost my leg, there is a lot of confusion. When I was 9 years old, I sprained my ankle riding my bike. I did have some dry skin on my heel that was said to be from a pressure ulcer when I was 2, but from the age of 2 to 9, I did not see a doctor about my foot. I had no issues with it. I ran, I rode my scooter, I rode my bike, I did everything a normal kid would do. I fell off my bike and I ended up in a wheelchair for a year, a little over a year. I could walk just fine, but my mom said the doctors didn't like the way my heel looked and that I had to be in a wheelchair. I was taken to doctors in Florida that actually said there was nothing wrong with me. They thought it was ridiculous that my mom had me in a wheelchair, and they denied care, and they're like, there's nothing wrong with her. My mom doctor shopped. We saw a lot of different doctors. She moved to South Carolina and she continued to doctor shop until she found a doctor that would listen to her and that a doctor that she could manipulate. I began having surgeries when I was about 13 years old. I had multiple surgeries on my foot, and eventually they decided to amputate. Even when they chose to amputate my leg, I was still walking fine. I mean, my foot was definitely more sore after the surgeries, but like 2 weeks before my amputation, I actually jumped off a bridge with my friends into Lake Hartwell in Georgia, and there was a rock quarry in Clemson that we used to go jump off of, and I hiked up to the rock quarry and jumped off of it just weeks before my amputation. Doctors and child services and people failed me my entire life. They investigated, they were there, but I had running water, food. My mom always got a heads up. My older sister used to have padlocks on her door, but they were always taken off right before child services got there. A lot of stuff was covered up because my mom always knew when they were coming. How did I escape? I never got to escape. I did try to stop the amputation of my leg. I got committed for lots of psychiatric treatment. I got prescribed a lot of drugs. I mean, to the point my mom kept trying to have my medications upped, and there was a point I remember the psychiatrist telling her that they couldn't because of my weight. I lived on Valium. My mom would shove Valium down my throat, so I kind of stayed in a zombie state a lot.
Kate's mother would force her to take medicine she didn't need. Eventually, her mother decided to leave her family behind.
She left on her own about a year after my amputation. She had nothing left to get attention for. Like, she couldn't abuse the charities and the churches and the government assistance for us because it was over. Like, after the amputation, there was nothing else she could do to me because her whole plan and her whole lie and all the things that she led up to the amputation, well, that solved all of her lies and all of her problems. She decided she wanted to be with this woman she met online, and she just left. And I actually took care of my little brother and little sister for a couple years. I tried to escape, and it didn't work. So they always blamed my mom over me, and I got basically deemed a sociopath because of her.
All right, I've seen enough. It's funny because I caught something watching it this last time that I didn't catch before. She actually says that she tried to stop the amputation of her leg, but in this interview we're going to see later, she says that she didn't try to stop it, and she was just so defeated and broken that she didn't try to. Look, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start from the beginning. But wow, what a horrible story, right? It just sounds so familiar. It's like I'm having deja vu. Okay, let me be serious. So when I first watched this video, I had the exact reaction that she wanted me to have. I fell for it hook, line, and sinker. I was like, oh my God, this poor girl. I can't believe her mom convinced doctors to amputate her leg. That's horrifying. And naturally, when I heard all the bullshit she was spewing online about how Gypsy Rose was out here trying to silence her and copyright strike her videos, I believed it. I bought it. Because when it comes to Gypsy, I mean, I don't put anything past her at this point. But then I decided to dig a little deeper. After filming a video a couple weeks ago supporting her, I know, rookie mistake. So I filmed a whole video supporting her, talking about all her claims about how Gypsy was after her, Gypsy was stealing her story, Gypsy was trying to take her videos down. So after filming that video, I typed in adaptive Kate lying into the YouTube search bar, and wow, the rabbit hole I fell down was wild. I was not expecting that. So one of the first videos that popped up was from a channel called Straight Outta Context, which is ran by a woman named Barbara Ann. And this woman has spent over 1,400 hours through a 4.5-month span investigating this case, and probably even more by now. She spoke with 61 people connected to this case, including Kate's whole family, her friends, and even her own mom, who she accuses of Munchausen by proxy, none of which could corroborate her story. And let me tell you, the things that she uncovered are jaw-dropping. So with that said, I encourage you to visit Barbara Ann's channel, Straight Outta Context, and watch the full video. She just does like an incredible job. It's definitely worth watching. So I'll include a link to her channel in the description. All of the information I'll be sharing in today's video comes from her in-depth research. So a big thank you to Barbara Ann for her dedication and research and her courage to ask things many of us wouldn't dare. It's really a shame that people like Kate exploit our hesitation to question victims. And before I get started, just to be clear, please do not harass Kate in any way. Do not send her any hate. Just please ignore her and move on. It's really not that serious. I mean, it is, but it's not enough to, deserve to be bullied and harassed online is what I'm trying to say. So like I mentioned before, I originally stumbled upon Kate's channel because she was online bitching and moaning about how Gypsy was trying to steal her story and silence her. She was throwing so much shade about how Gypsy has 10 million followers because she unalived her mom. And what is she doing? She's not even an advocate. She's not a real advocate. At least I'm the real advocate. So she has a very much like holier than thou attitude towards Gypsy when it's like, girl, you're lying. Honestly, it just feels like she's upset that Gypsy is hogging the limelight and she's left in the shadows, desperately wanting a slice of that 10 million subscriber pie. And the thing is, like, that's all well and good. You can feel that way towards Gypsy. I mean, I myself agree, like, I don't think she deserves a cent off this crime. But I just find it weird that after saying all this and criticizing Gypsy, Kate then also goes on a media tour trying to gain fame, notoriety, and subscribers. She actually has done 5 interviews on major public platforms, including one on a YouTube channel called Hidden True Crime. And I have been a longtime viewer and subscriber of Hidden True Crime. I've enjoyed their channel for many years. It's run by Lauren, a journalist, and her husband John, who is a forensic psychologist. They're both extremely intelligent individuals with a lot of compassion. And I think Kate tried taking full advantage of that, spinning her bullshit sob story full of lies. It was just so cringy. It should be a crime in itself. But watching it back now, I just don't even know how she could even show her face online ever again. I would just be so embarrassed. Kate also claims that her older sister was another victim of her mom's behavior. Let's hear what Kate has to say about her sister's story.
And I can share a little bit about my sister. So she's given me permission to share, but my sister is not open about her story because she has made peace with it. My sister does not have a lot of memory of her story because of the medication that she was on, and she does have permanent brain damage. My older sister was pretty healthy and fine up until we moved to South Carolina. So my mom fled Florida with all of us. And when we got to South Carolina, I remember I was in middle school. My sister was high school. We rode the same bus. Like, we were really close. She'd stick up to the bullies for me. My sister was very intelligent. She was. And then within about a year and a half time frame, my sister could no longer read or write. My sister got very, very ill. She was on lots of medication. She got a feeding tube put in. She had an IV port put in, and she just kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker. And
Was there an identified?
Forget to feed.
Okay, I'm sorry. Was there any identifiable cause for your sister's deterioration?
They said she got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. I don't remember what it was called. And said she was diagnosed with epilepsy and stuff, but it just happened all of a sudden out of nowhere. I don't even understand it really.
Okay. What are your thoughts about it?
I think my mom was poisoning her.
Now, an intriguing aspect of this claim and this whole situation that Barbara Ann highlights is that Munchausen by proxy is extremely rare. And she mentions in her, I don't know if it was in her video or I think she was actually on Sir Morbid's channel, believe it or not. Anyways, she mentioned that there are only 5 confirmed cases in the US. And if both Kate and her sister were actually both victims, this would be like unprecedented. Potentially the only known case, either confirmed or unconfirmed, involving 2 victims by the same perpetrator. She explains that this has like never been seen before. Usually when there's someone with Munchausen by proxy, they really focus in on one person. Historically, it's always only involved a single victim, as evidenced by the fact that 4 out of 5 cases in the United States, the victims all passed away before the age of 10. Now, Kate's story is absolutely wild, and there are so many red flags we're going to get into. So Barbara Ann starts to notice and point out a bunch of these inconsistencies in Kate's story, which makes her dig even deeper. And because of this, Kate actually ends up deactivating her social media accounts, and then she reaches out to her mom after 7 years of not speaking to her, which is like just so crazy. So get this. After 7 years of not speaking a word to her own mom, Kate then out of the blue messages her mom demanding that she too delete all her social media. I think she only had like Facebook or something at the time, but she demands that her mom deactivate her Facebook, take it down, because there were people out there trying to ruin Kate's life, which in reality there weren't. It's just people started picking up on her lies. So Barbara Ann believes, and I would have to agree, that Kate wants her mom to get rid of her Facebook, to block people from being able to contact her and get the real story. Not only that, but also this would keep her mom from finding out about the 5+ interviews she's done, accusing her mom of some very serious crimes, you could say. So by the time Kate starts sending her mom all these like really angry, aggressive messages, telling her mom not to talk about Kate or how she lost her leg, it was already too late because Barbara Ann had already sent a letter to Kate's mom. And it's really sad because Kate's mom was completely blindsided by all of this and this whole drama. She actually expressed that she loves her daughter and she was just like so genuinely hurt by everything. She didn't even know what Munchausen by proxy was. She had to look it up. And it's wild because in the interview, Kate says this.
And so it sounds like you've confronted your mother.
Oh yeah, I have.
And how has she responded to it?
I didn't hurt any of you kids. So she says, I didn't hurt any of you kids. I loved you guys. You know that.
And when you point out specifics about your left foot being amputated, she thinks it's, so she argues that it's legitimate and the procedure was necessary?
She does, and she denies it, and she's telling me that I am manipulating it and I'm the one lying, and she's like, I need to stop being the liar and I need to tell the truth.
Yeah. So did you really have that conversation with your mom, Kate? Because it looks like your mom had no idea you were defaming her online, making up lies and slandering her. But Kate does not stop there with her accusations. So now she's saying that not only did Kate's mom hurt her, but also her sister and now her granddaughter, Kate's own daughter. So Kate claims that her mom caused her daughter's blood sugar to drop so dangerously low that she had to be hospitalized for 2 weeks.
Also, if this was true, why would Kate stand by for, 13 years or so and watch her mom come into contact with so many other kids?
Even her own kid.
Even her own kid. And that that is a piece that I also learned something the other day, Kate alleges that her mom that her Munchausen by proxy almost cost her daughter her life before she was 2. I found out that around 7-8 months old that Kate had told her mom that the baby wasn't eating or drinking and that she was only feeding her V8 juice, something along those lines. And that Kate's mom and her wife, this was the wife that she left Kate's dad for, they were actually in the hospital for several days with Kate's daughter, and Kate leaves South Carolina while her baby's in the hospital, allows them consent, her mom and her wife consent through the doctor at the hospital to treat her baby, goes back to North Carolina to mess around with whoever it was that she was with at that time. And Kate's mom also had not through the court, but she actually physically had her daughter for about 7 months before her daughter was 2. So why would your mom, not only did she watch you give birth to your daughter, but she's actually the one sitting with her in a hospital when she's sick. She alludes to her mom like injecting insulin in her daughter or doing something to cause sugar issues. Well, it turns out that her daughter was admitted for those sugar issues because she probably wasn't getting the supplementation that she needed from Kate. So I think that's pretty, that itself speaks volumes. If you knew your mom had this, why would you be subjecting your own kid to her care? And why would you leave her for almost 7 months or so?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
If you really thought your mom was this horrible monster, why the hell would you let her around your daughter, Kate? That sounds pretty neglectful if you ask me. Not only that, but Kate's mom was actually there for the birth of her granddaughter. Listen to what Barbara Ann says in her original video.
Kate's mom did not flee the state and go to another state. Her and her wife lived in South Carolina. That's why Kate's mom has had visitation with her younger 3 siblings. That's why there was pictures of Kate's mom, even with Kate's oldest sister and the younger 3 siblings. And I'm also assuming that when Kate has her daughter, whose father is from Florida, that this is how her mom is present for the birth of her granddaughter. And this is also where Kate's mom, the one she accuses of having Munchausen by proxy, actually helps Kate babysit her daughter, actually is helping watch her. Now, Kate alleges that her mom injected her daughter with insulin or did something to cause her to have sugar issues. I have seen private messages. I have seen bits and pieces of medical records that Kate herself has taken a picture of and sent to somebody via text. I have seen other things that Kate has said to other friends regarding that, and during that time that her daughter did go to the hospital. That is true, that she was having some kind of sugar issues. But that begs the question, Kate, because if this is true and this objectively happened the way that you said, why did you not contact the police? Hospitals, doctors, staff, nurses, nurse assistants, all of those people are mandated reporters. And if they had any suspicion that this little baby under the age of 2 is having sugar issues that is completely unexplained because somebody possibly injected her with insulin, the first thing they would do is contact law enforcement and contact CPS. And the fact that, Kate, you yourself failed to do that tells me that that is not what happened with your daughter. Because if your mom did this, whatever she used to give your daughter, the DNA would still be there. If she injected her or gave her something by mouth, that DNA forensic evidence would still be there. There's no reason why. That was your golden opportunity. Never mind what your mom did to you, but for you to allow it to happen to your daughter is completely different. And the way that she speaks about her mom only was there when she had her daughter and then she allowed her only one time, that's not true. Kate's mom was watching her granddaughter a lot.
Another thing Barbara Ann talks about is not only did she reach out to several family members and friends in Kate's life, including her mom, but she also talks to Kate's own sister, the other victim. So according to Barbara, there is a huge gap between what Kate is saying and what the rest of her siblings experienced. Kate's sister does not ever mention any medical abuse or Munchausen by proxy at all.
Her older sister does not say that this is medical abuse or Munchausen by proxy, but she just says that she wants to put it in the past. That's why no news is taking it, why Dr. Phil's not taking it, why nobody else is taking it, because this is just not objectively what happened. And those medical records are proof that Kate endured something, but it's just not what she wants it to be.
What I find really interesting is that Kate is online complaining all over social media about how Gypsy is stealing parts of her story, but if you listen to Kate's interview, you might notice parts that sound very familiar. Let me know what you think.
Also, my mom didn't have any medical records that she provided Shriner. She told them, so I lived in Florida, you know, as a child. In 2004, there was a lot of hurricanes that hit Florida. We did have flooding of our house because we had a tree hit our roof and we had a hole. She said that the records were destroyed because of those hurricanes that happened. And she couldn't remember all the places that she took me. And back then, they were
that's kind of reminiscent. That's from the Gypsy Rose playbook.
Oh,
yes, as is the wheelchair, you know, being in a wheelchair.
Right, the wheelchair, the diagnoses made by your mother.
That was bizarre to see those similarities. And then I was like, even her mom said Hurricane Katrina. I mean, mine was different hurricanes, but I was in Florida and it was Hurricane Matthew and Hurricane Francis. But we did have our house. And it was minor flood. I can't remember it. They had to tear up all the flooring and stuff, but I wouldn't say it was major enough to destroy all records.
Wow.
Well,
so
yeah, I agree. By the way, Gypsy Rose's record survived Hurricane Katrina. So that was all fiction. So I'm sure this was largely a fiction with you.
He said, I'm sure this was largely a fiction with you. The Freudian slip. Yes, it is a fiction with her. Kate, that's funny, but not funny haha, funny weird. So here's another interesting claim that Kate makes, which if you didn't know any better, or if you didn't ever work in the medical industry or anything like that, you might actually believe and be like, wow, that's crazy. But for those who have actually worked in the medical industry, we know that things don't work like this. So the fact that she was gonna like say this story and have people believe her is just, well, I guess it's not that insane, because at first I believed her. But when you kind of stop to like think about this whole story, you're like, wait, yeah, that doesn't actually work like that. You don't actually like get your diagnoses from the parents and then just move on with procedures based on what the parents say. You know what I mean? So let's just watch this video, then we'll talk about it.
And these were the diagnoses were being made by
My mom.
By your mom. Okay. But did you ever go to like a podiatrist or like a specialist for a foot?
No. Just sure.
Okay. So
that's interesting.
Right. Right. That's interesting.
That's interesting. So Kate expects us to believe that these doctors at this like extremely prestigious hospital performed not only multiple surgeries, but actually amputated her leg without a specialist being involved. All because her mommy said so. Even Lauren and Dr. John are like, that's interesting. But speaking of doctors, Kate was actually photographed smiling and hugging the doctor that she accuses of amputating her perfectly healthy leg. If you genuinely believe that this doctor committed this very serious malpractice, you'd think the logical thing to do would be to, I don't know, get a lawyer and go after him legally, not show up to an event and pose for pictures with him. It just doesn't add up.
Helped Kate get into the amputee coalition and whatnot. So everybody that had seen these pictures and videos of her with the doctor were like, wait a minute, that's another inconsistency. And that's why they came to me and they said, I know, why would she be saying that this doctor took off her perfectly healthy, normal leg, but then be at an amputee convention with him, hugging him? That's very strange. And so the friends, they all confirm like that's what happened. And then she goes on to say in the Reddit thing about Dr. David Westbury, well, I actually already talked to him and spoke to him. Well, you didn't say that in any of your interviews. Why didn't you?
Later in the interview, Kate gets real bold and tries to push Dr. John for an evaluation. She wants him to give his opinion on someone he's never even examined.
I do want your your opinion on these records. One of the things I struggle with is when I share my story, I'm always another gypsy. I'm always stealing from Gypsy's story. And I'm like, but I'm not. My story actually happened. Like, but her stuff unraveled when she, the unaliving of her mom in 2015. My leg was lost in 2010. Like, I had already knew what Munchausen by proxy syndrome was before her story was known by anybody.
So in other words, you feel like people think you're copying her, like that you're just making this up because...
Yes, and it is a hard thing to always be another gypsy. I can't tell anybody my story, a stranger, when they're like, oh, how'd you lose your leg? And you tell them, oh, you're like that girl gypsy. I'm like, it's not, I'm not.
Well, now that you bring that up, I don't want to get into that too much at the moment.
Oh my God, it's so awkward. He's like, I don't really want to get into that. And then he changes the subject. Oh my God, how embarrassing. But don't worry, Kate pushes him again. She wants to get an answer to this question. And it seems to me she's trying to manipulate Dr. John to kind of like give her more credibility. I think she wants to be like, look, this forensic psychologist endorsed my story. She's not letting him off the hook. She clearly wants him to answer. So let's watch and see how she circles back to this.
Want to ask you to, like, I know maybe you can't diagnose or anything, but looking at my records, can you, because one thing, I know that it was said my mom had Munchausen syndrome by proxy of my sister, but I can never get anybody to look at my records ever say, but could you say my records and things are consistent with that?
I didn't really have time to go through them in depth.
Okay.
But I certainly, so I wouldn't really be able to diagnose based on what I've seen so far. But if I'm trusting your story and just taking your story at face value, and you seem believable to me. So, but that, taking what you've told us and lining that up with what I've seen of your medical records, I definitely think it seems like it's very strong. You can make a very strong case.
She is a fraud. She's a fake. She's a phony. She's a wannabe Gypsy Rose, and she creeps me the fuck out. Oh my God. This is like, is she serious? Like, girl, what do you not understand? He cannot diagnose somebody he's never examined. This is just like so difficult and cringy to watch. This type of person to me is just so incredibly selfish. And it says a lot that she has no shame lying to hundreds of thousands of people on TikTok, going on these interviews, knowing that she's lying. Like, this is a huge, I don't know, like, I don't know if it's like some kind of disorder, but it's quite disgusting and diabolical that she can go on these interviews and lie about this. It's crazy to me. People like this, all they care about is getting sympathy and being a victim in every situation. And it's quite pathetic to me. And honestly, I have no respect for it. I think it's disgusting. I think it's embarrassing. And I just think she just really needs to find something in life that's fulfilling to her, because this whole thing is just pathetic. Like, I have no other way to explain it. It's just completely pathetic. And I want to make it clear, I'm not saying that Kate hasn't been through some form of abuse, and I'm not saying that she didn't have a rough time in childhood or growing up, but it ain't Munchausen by proxy. And the thing is, as well, is like, she would have already gotten attention from people online just by being an amputee. And I know that, like, I might get some hate for that, but that's kind of interesting. Being a young girl that has had her leg amputated and hearing her story, and like the real story, the true story, I feel like that's quite interesting, at least to me. Without all this extra stuff, without all like the Munchausen and like all the dramatics behind it, I personally feel like she would have gotten a lot of attention already without all of that. So drop the facade, drop the bullshit, drop the lies, and just come forward with the truth. Say, you know, I lied because I feel like I would get attention from this. I saw Gypsy getting attention and I lied. I made up the story. And I think she would get some hate for that. There would be some people, but I think she would be very surprised to see how much more respect people have for that and the truth than this bullshit that she's trying to stick to and bullshit lie content she's trying to put out. So throughout this interview, she keeps kind of like complaining about how people are always comparing her to Gypsy, and that when she tries to share her story with people in person, they're always just like, ugh, another Gypsy. And she's kind of like implying that she sees the comparison to Gypsy in a negative way. It's very obvious. She sees herself as better than. And she brings up Gypsy so many times that Lauren finally asks her, like, well, how do you feel about Gypsy? And here's how Kate responds.
Let me ask you, like, how do you feel about Gypsy Rose's story? I mean, I clearly see the similarities.
Yeah. And
I think we all do. You certainly do. You say that everyone always says, oh, you're another Gypsy. Yeah. But how do you feel? I'm sure do you feel empathy? Do you feel anger? Do you feel compassion?
I used to feel a lot more empathy for her, but as things have come out, some of the things, going on a PR tour 2 days out of jail, and just the way she kind of prioritized, I guess, she wanted to justify. She's saying like, I did not, it's almost like she didn't want to take any credit for her actions. Sorry, like I struggle with the words about the situation.
Accountability. I think that's the word you're looking for, Kate. Accountability. And that's funny because you're talking about Gypsy not wanting to take accountability for her actions, yet you yourself won't take any accountability for your own actions.
And I look at him like, but you were an adult, and people go back out to defend her. Like, well, she had the mind of a child. I've seen even interviews when she was younger, when she had like the Habitat of Humanity house and stuff. The way she spoke on those news stations, I wouldn't say, I mean, she had a childlike voice, but I thought she was pretty smart, to be honest. Because I had a sister who actually mentally couldn't really read, she couldn't write, like, who was really mentally unable to really defend herself. And seeing her, I didn't get the same view, but again, it's from a perspective, like I've just seen it in two different perspectives. So that's just on me. And I am not trying to say anything wrong. I definitely believe that she is a survivor. I know that because I can hear the similarities. I do know she is, but
girl, you got a lot of nerve.
Like there was an agreement there somewhere. She was walking. She admits that, because from experience and seeing it, you don't sit in a wheelchair for years and have no use of your legs, and you just get up and walk one day without any physical therapy or any help. So like you would have, your muscles would be weak. Like it wouldn't be just so simple. And then being an adult, and then she claimed like she didn't know. I mean, she was talking to a 20-something-year-old Nick for quite a while. So she had to have known her age to be talking to somebody in their 20s. She obviously wasn't a child, and it's hard. The more I hear from her, the more it's like, I think she's hurting herself. I think she needs to just do some healing, and she had a lot of past trauma. And I think she's kind of,
girl, isn't it the pot calling the kettle black?
She is feeding on that attention, but that's what she's used to. And I'm not going to say that's her fault. She's used to all that attention on her, but the attention she's getting is going to bring in continuous negative attention. And the way she's going about it, I mean, I'm looking at her like, okay, you're the face of Munchausen by proxy. Please say something about Munchausen by proxy. Please say something, that is of value to explain this illness. But she's going on there talking about Taylor Swift and her.
Girl, why do you care? You're a Munchausen by proxy victim. Why do you care?
Personal life in bed with her husband. I'm like, why are we not talking about like at least something? Like, and people say, well, she just got out of jail. I'm like, she also went on a PR tour, went on so many different shows in a short period of time that in that PR tour, she could have said something valuable about Munchausen syndrome by proxy somewhere. At least in one of the interviews, she could have said something valuable about this condition, since this is what she is famous for. And she's saying that's why she unalived her mom and justifying it, having her mom unalived for this condition, but she can't say anything about it.
You're going on a PR tour lying, saying that you're a Munchausen by proxy victim.
Yeah, she said she wanted to partner with Kim Kardashian because Kim was into prison reform. But that's,
I heard that, and then I saw they're working on a show with her husband for prison brides. We're talking about prison or what, but it's like, so we're just going away from Munchausen syndrome by proxy now. And people are like, well, she said she's gonna be an advocate. I'm like, yeah, and she has advocate posted in every bio, but I have not seen any advocacy going on at all.
Because you're a victim, you're hoping, and all eyes are on her. You're hoping for something, almost like you're like, I'm one of you. I'm with you, Gypsy. Like you're cheering her on probably more than anyone, right? Like, let's do this. Like, please bring awareness.
I was. And then when I saw all those interviews and her priorities, and she has millions of followers, and her first thing finally when she's getting called out for not being an advocate, she makes a video where she just reads the definition of Munchausen syndrome by proxy. And I'm like,
this is so embarrassing. This is so embarrassing. Why are you not embarrassed? I don't get people like this. I just don't understand people like this at all. Hey guys, I'm just popping in here because as I was editing this video, I realized that I completely forgot to add in the part where Kate says that she was so broken. She didn't fight the amputation at all because her spirit was just so broken and she was just accepting it. And she thought that if she were to fight it, her mom would just find another doctor to go through with the surgery. But as we saw with the first TikTok of Kate's that I showed, she said that she did try to fight the amputation. So I'm going to add in that part here where she says that she did try to fight it, and then I'll react to the part where she said that she didn't try to fight it. So it's just kind of interesting to see her once again contradict herself.
How did I escape? I never got to escape. I did try to stop the amputation of my leg.
I could have, one thing that I will take blame on, I know I could have told the doctor about it. I know I could. And I knew it. I even knew the day I laid on that bed going into surgery that surgery was not necessary. I walked in there. I walked to the pre-op. I walked into all those appointments. Those doctors saw me walking. So I knew that it should not happen. But I felt like I was crazy and I gave up. Before I went in, I basically made peace with it. And I was like, whatever happens, happens. I was very sarcastic. I was very just, let's get it over with because it's going to happen regardless. So just do it because I felt like I had no fight left in me. So
almost like a broken horse, almost like they broke your spirit or something. So,
but when you guys know more about my sister's story too, you'll understand there was a part of me too that felt if I told that doctor right then and there, let's say he canceled surgery, I just felt like she was going to find another doctor. And I just felt like it was going to get worse on me. I just felt like it didn't matter whether I told it then. She was going to find a way out of it. She always was good with words to find her way out of everything.
But I thought she told the doctor. Like I said before, all this research actually comes from Barbara Ann. Her channel is Straight Outta Context. She's done an amazing job breaking down Kate's lies, exposing the truth. Like I mentioned before, Barbara Ann talked to 61 people who are connected to Kate in the story, and she was hoping to find somebody to corroborate Kate's story, to say like, yeah, Kate's telling the truth. And out of all those people, she wasn't able to find one. And that really says something, you know? But what I wanted to say is that like, she didn't have like some vendetta towards Kate. She actually set out to like support her. She wanted to find ways to show people that Kate was telling the truth. And what she found was that she unfortunately was not telling the truth. So anyways, like I said, I'll drop the link to her channel. Definitely check it out. So let me know what you guys think. Do you think Kate's causing harm to the community? Do you just not give a shit? Please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. Bye guys, take care.